I think the best place to start before we go on to talking about Newcastle coming up at the end of this month. One of the things that I think Octagon should be really commended for is the activity that they're producing over here in the UK, right? Because we've seen it so many times. Promotions come over, and you might get one show a year or something like that, and all these things. But it literally feels like a couple of weeks ago that you last fought, and it isn't that long ago, even
Yeah.
like past that. So you must be buzzing with the activity, especially at this point in your career, just to be back out there already.
Yeah, I mean, I've always been an active fighter, even in my amateur career. I think within about 12, maybe 15 months from the beginning of my amateur career to when I went pro, I had eight fights, you know. So I like activity. I like being in there. I think that's the best way to learn. And I've been sort of learning on the job. I started quite late, so I'm just learning on the job. I want to just get as many fights as I can and get better. And yeah, Octagon really gives us a good platform to do that. You know, it's not just in the UK as well. Like they have a show like nearly every month, sometimes two in a month. You know, their last show was only there on the 29th of December, and they've got another one less than a month later. And then I think they had another one at the start of December. So there's just plenty of opportunities to fight if you wanna fight. And the best thing is to just stay active while you can, while you're not injured. You know what I mean? And especially if you come out of a fight unfazed, fight again in 4 weeks while you're fit and ready. You know?
Yeah, totally. Obviously, at the time of recording this, we're only a couple of weeks away from January 27th and the card in Newcastle. And I was thinking to myself, you know, you don't have the nickname the Menace for nothing, right? When I see a Denis Frimpong fight signed, I know that there's going to be some chatter in the build up, and I was thinking Dennis has been a bit quiet lately. That's a bit strange for him. And then you must have been made up to see that for once it was your opponent that kind of started the back and forth a little bit. Like I know that it wasn't anything too serious, right? It was just a little bit of like jokes here and there on social media, but you must have been buzzing to have a guy that wants to play those games with you because that is your element.
Yeah, 100%. I think in the trash talk so far against any of my opponents, I've been undefeated. Um, So yeah, to be honest, I'm looking forward to one day maybe meeting me match or someone that can give me a bit of a good back and forth. To be honest, this time I was trying to just keep it respectful. He's a veteran of Octagon. He's a veteran of the game. He's got 30 fights. That's more fights than a lot of UFC fighters have. So um, I was giving him the respect he deserves, and I still think he deserves respect. We haven't gone too personal, as you say. We've just had a few jabs back and forth with each other, but I was more than happy to get involved in it. Since he decided to poke at me. Um, but yeah, I think he just made a bit of a mistake by opening that kind of worms because I haven't heard much from him since I started going to him. So.
It must be a nice change of pace from the intensity of doing the Octagon Challenge series, where of course not only are you fighting the guys, but living with them as well. And so, especially for yourself, you are not a guy that is going to be able to go through that process and lay low. So you are always going to be the guy that is the loudest in the room and creating. At the end of the day, the clips that people see that they go, I need to tune in and check this show out for. But to go from that to this, where sure there's been a little bit of back and forth, but it's been mostly just like little digs here and there, and the rest is
Yeah.
business, right? Must be a nice change of pace for you, even though I know you do love the chaos to
Um,
some degree.
it's a little bit of a change of pace. To be honest, last year was fucking intense. Looking back at it, I was pretty much in camp all year. I had a fight, my pro debut in February, like early February. So I was in camp from the get go, start of the year, and then had another one in April, and then pretty much from that was straight into camp for the show, and then obviously throughout the show, straight after the show, I knew he was in the final, so I was pretty much back in the long camp then. So I didn't really get much time off. But like I say, I like to be active anyway. Um, but yeah, it's definitely nice not seeing the guy I'm gonna fight until maybe the week of the fight in the hotel or weigh-in day. Um, yeah, it gives a bit of separation. It gives a bit of like a less personal thing where like I'm not I don't really know the guy, and I don't really like, he's just a body, you know what I mean? Whereas like living in the house with the guys that you're gonna fight is a bit like, there's obviously you're giving them shit, but there's points where you're just like chilling, you know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
I don't really want to just chill with a guy that I'm gonna try and kill. So yeah, it's definitely different. It's going back to the um the roots, as it were, and just focusing on a fight, a bit of online chat, and then get there on fight week and have a knock with a guy.
Yeah, it feels weird to say that it's like back to normality because you're still training to fight another guy, right? There is nothing normal about it, but it is normality for the MMA world. I'm sure, I don't know if he would have seen any of the show, but I'm sure that Jan Siroky is very glad that he doesn't have to live with you and then fight you because I feel like that adds to how difficult fighting you would be in the first place. It almost like I know that it would have been, tough for you to go through that process as well. It's tough for everybody in different ways, but I feel like that is almost playing into your strengths to some degree, your ability to get in people's heads before you even step inside the cage with them. So I'm sure he's glad
Yeah,
that he doesn't have to do that.
yeah, he definitely is. I feel like he's a soldier as well, and I feel like as much as soldiers are sort of trained to like, oh, get into a warrior's mindset or a war mindset or whatever that is, and they have training to do that, to sort of blank out. I mean, Hassan was a soldier as well. I feel like they're the easiest guys to get in their heads because when you go to war, you're not really shit talking the guys you're going to war with, are you? You're just shooting at them and trying to kill them. So I think war guys and soldiers, they have big egos, and the bigger your ego, the more easy you are to prod at and get a reaction out of an emotional response. So
Yeah, that's one of the things I wanted to touch on because I like because of the character that you are. I constantly see, you're always going to get a love and hate reaction from people, which is great, right? They always say about, it's better to be love or hated than to be indifferent to people, right? Because people will tune in
yeah.
to watch you whether they love or hate you. But at the same time, I imagine that how do you go about that in terms of, I know that you're just being yourself, but when you see, when you do suffer a loss and people are like, oh, that's what you get for talking a big game. It's interesting to compare that to some of the opponents you spoke about then with, the people that are easier to break because they have an ego. But people would say the same thing. I'm talking about people that don't like you, not people that are happy to watch you fight, but they would say the same thing, right? They would be like, oh, he's got too much of an ego, that he's lost the fight and he's been talking the whole time. But I imagine that doing that kind of thing comes with some level of like not just confidence and being yourself, but also just a level of knowing how to step away at the same time and be like, this is the fight
Um,
game, and this is
It's,
what
do you
I'm
know what
like.
it is, mate? It's more so just that I have supreme confidence in my abilities. I know how hard I work in the gym. Um, like, don't get me wrong, talking all that shit, it definitely puts a bit of added sort of pressure on you, you know what I mean, to perform. Because like you say, then people are like, oh, chat shit, you couldn't back it up. But at the end of the day, most of those people aren't fighters, you know what I mean? So, like my dad always used to say, don't go to advice, don't go to people for advice, or sorry, don't take the criticism of people you wouldn't go to for advice. And I'd never ask some random bloke on an anonymous page with a bleeding, do you know what I mean, a private page and 200 followers for advice on fighting. So when they critique me, I'm just like, mate, you'd never say anything to me in person. Where I would say whatever I wanted to you in person, and you would do nothing about it. And I say these things to people in person, you know. As for the fighters that chat shit, about the fact that I chat shit and I talked a big game and I lost. It's like, well, some of you guys are pro the last 5 years and I'm ahead of you. You know what I mean? Some of you are only now getting signed to OKTAGON after 8, 10 fights of fighting bums on the regional scene. I got signed to OKTAGON with one pro fight on my record. So that just goes to show, you know what I mean? Hatred is hatred. And as for the fighters that want to sort of down talk me or whatever for what I do, maybe start talking shit yourselves and you might get somewhere. Do you know what I mean?
I mean, the fact that obviously people have had eyes on George as a long time guy that had a lot of promise, but to go from for people that do trash talk you for losing that fight, to go from that to fighting a veteran in Siroky who's been there, done it, been in Octagon for ages, like racked up a whole ton of fights in Europe, is like it's not like you've taken that much of a step back, my friend. I mean, in terms of the experience, the guy has got a ridiculous amount, which will be the first thing that people notice about this fight
Yeah.
immediately anyway. So, it's like
Hey, listen, I've never wanted the easy fights, mate. I made my pro debut in Abu Dhabi against a guy who was 2-1, had a big kickboxing background. He's now 4-1. You know, one she should be 5-1 to be honest, because I think he one fight was a no contest, should have been a DQ, and he's a good guy. I took that fight on my pro debut. I'm not one of these guys that's going to go and fight a load of journeymen, 0-40 guys, and claim like I'm a big guy. You know what I mean? I just take the hard fights, win or lose. You know what I mean? I'm getting experience, and I think going to the fourth round with George, fight 4 5 minute rounds. Yeah, granted, he caught a sub. You know what I mean? He bust my eye, blood went in my eye. He caught a sub. It is what it is. But let's see how he gets on in Octagon. Let's see how many people make it to the third round or even the second round against him, because I think he's very good. And I think what we both go on to do in our careers will show, and what I go on to do on the 27th of January to a 30 fight veteran will show as well.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I can't wait to see, how you guys both go in different directions and maybe circle back round to one another at some point. Like I think that having you guys fight at such an early age in your careers is only a good thing for both of you in the end. To the final thing I wanted to touch on, to go back to the Octagon Challenge series again, like I said, I was thinking I haven't heard much from Denis in the lead up to this fight. There's got to be something. There's got to be something that he's talking about that is either it's getting under his skin, right? And then I found it, right? The fact that the fights on the Octagon Challenge series aren't on your pro record, which isn't something I thought about when I looked at your pro record the other day, just to make notes before doing this. And then I heard you speak about it, and I was like, yeah, I don't know how anyone could deny him those fights being on his pro record when you explain it and break it down the way that you did in the chat with your Team Ireland teammate Aaron.
Hey, listen, people, you know what? Like, there's a lot of people out there that are haters. Like I said, few fighters out there that are haters, and they want to go on about, oh, you're 0-2 and this and that and the other. But mate, I had 5 pro fights last year. One of them got removed off my record. I don't know why. I think the guy fucking went and fought an amateur fight like a couple weeks before he fought me, and he'd already had like 4 pro fights. So they just made it ineligible because he was doing weird shit. Um, but whatever, you know what I mean? And then, the fight with Hassan against a 4-1, he's now 5-1 pro, experienced guy, knocked him out unconscious. People can say exhibition all they want, but I exhibited him unconscious on the ground at the end of the day. Do you know what I mean? Like he got knocked out. Uh, Both the fight was a full pro rules, Granted, the fight on Hassan had no elbows, so PFL rules, we'll say. And those are pro fights. And then the fight with Bo was full pro rules, 3 5 minute rounds, 4 ounce gloves and elbows involved, full rule set. So yeah, people can say whatever they want, but at the end of the day, I showed what I can do, and records are, as they say, for DJs. I know how good I am. Your record doesn't speak for you. Your skill set has to speak for itself, and your skills in the cage have to speak for themselves. You can't always hide behind the record. You can be out fucking 6-0 and go and get knocked out by a guy who's 0-3. Do you know what I mean? And yeah, that's the end of that. Look at like the likes of Nate Diaz, George Masvidal. They pretty shit records, to be honest. Like let's call a spade, and they're probably 2 of the richest fighters out there. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, says it all. I think that it's great as well for Octagon to kind of echo what you just said and put you in there quickly as possible. Another UK card and against a guy that has so much fight experience. I think it speaks to them seeing what you're saying, and that sure, that number might say 0-2, but you were on a series where you fought multiple times and beat, some really promising guys in the UK and Irish scene. And so like, it's so deceiving, right? When you look at a record, you could say the same for your opponent, right? He's got a ton of experience,
yeah,
and if you looked at that, you
yeah.
probably go, "What's this guy doing fighting Denis? This is a mismatch. This guy has like so much more experience." But that is just a
And
number. Right.
And hey, listen, like fair play to him as well because
Yeah.
he's the what I respect about the Eastern European fighters, the Czech and the Slovak fighters, is that their game. A lot of these UK guys, if they hit like 4-5-0, they don't want to take any risks. They don't want to fight a guy who's like got a worse record or less fights than them because they know that this guy can beat me. Do you know what I mean? And then, oh well, it'll look bad. But like, who gives a fuck what it looks like, mate? If you actually really want to be the best in the world, just fight everyone. Do you know what I mean? Because like one day you're gonna come across a guy that you have to fight, and then what you're gonna do then? Do you know? So fair play to Jan for taking the fight. He could have said, "Oh, I have too many fights to fight Denis. He's not experienced enough." But he took the fight. Do you know what I mean? Because I think real recognize real. I think he recognizes that I'm going to be a tough fight for him and I'm a test for him. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that's not his mindset, and maybe his mindset is, oh, it's an easy fight because he's 0-2. But I don't think he's thinking that in his head. I think he knows that it's going to be a hard fight for him.
Yeah. I can't wait for this matchup. Like I said, I think it's great that Octagon are coming back so soon and that they're giving, they're not keeping you guys on ice or anything like that. Straight back in, tough opponent. Here we go again, kind of thing. It's so frustrating. Neither me or any of the Violent Money crew have been able to get out to the Manchester event or this event, but I live pretty close to Birmingham, so hopefully we'll catch that one. I know that
Hey,
you've
look,
said about
I'm looking to get on all the UK cards
yeah,
this year, and like, listen, they need to get an Irish card going as well, whether it be
yes.
in Dublin or Belfast. I need a home crowd. I want to walk out in front of that Irish crowd. There's nothing like it. But yeah, I plan to fight on all the all the domestic cards this year. Um, and then maybe like a little card in Germany or Czech, depending on who I'm fighting as well. But yeah.
I feel like you fighting a fan favorite over there in Europe would be something special. Like
Yeah.
it has bucket list moment written all over it. That does. So yeah, I look forward to it, man. Thank you for your time, mate. I'll catch you soon, and good luck for the fight.
Well, thanks a million for having me on, lad. Appreciate it.
No problem, man. We'll see you later.
Go on, lad. Nice one.
Nice one.